In a world that celebrates the fleeting, the shallow, and the surface, we have lost the art of truly connecting. We have become masters of the superficial, hiding behind the distractions of empty pleasantries, meaningless interactions, and digital noise. But deep within us, there lies a yearning for something more, something real, something enduring. We are not meant to live in the shallow end. True strength, true fulfillment, and true wisdom are found only when we dare to go deeper, to build relationships not of convenience, but of substance, to see others for who they truly are, and to be seen in return. It is only through this depth that we find meaning in our lives. The illusion of surface-level connections. In this age of constant noise, we have become experts at pretending. We engage in pleasantries that hold no weight, smile at faces we scarcely know, and nod along with words we've heard 1,000 times. But behind the curtain of these superficial exchanges lies a sobering truth. We are alone in a crowd. We are drawn to the simplicity of surface-level connections because they require little effort, no vulnerability, no exposure of our true selves. It is far easier to keep things light, to shield ourselves behind the facade of casual encounters than to expose the depth of our thoughts, our fears, and our struggles. To share ourselves fully would require us to confront the parts of us we keep hidden, the raw, imperfect aspects we fear others may not understand or accept. And so we choose the comfortable path of emptiness, the path where we exchange words but never truly communicate. Yet in this choice, we miss something profound. The relationships we think are the easiest, those that glide along the surface, are often the most hollow. We think we're connecting, but in reality, we are merely passing each other like strangers in a crowded street. We know the names, the faces, the pleasantries, but we do not know the soul beneath. We do not understand the struggles, the passions, or the vulnerabilities that make each of us unique. A superficial connection is like a shallow pond. Its waters may appear calm and clear, but there is no depth to explore. We may dip our toes in, but we never dive beneath the surface. We are content with the ripples, with the illusion that we have reached some understanding, some bond. But true connection requires courage, patience, and the willingness to go deeper. It requires us to step beyond the facade, to look past the masks we wear, and to see the other person in their entirety, imperfections and all. This is the first lesson. The world may try to convince us that surface-level interactions are enough, that the likes, the shares, and the quick exchanges are sufficient. But true connection is not found in these fleeting moments. It is found in the deep waters, where honesty, vulnerability, and true understanding reside. And it is there, in the depths, where we begin to build the relationships that truly nourish us. Seeking true fulfillment beyond the shallow waters. To seek fulfillment in the shallow is to deceive ourselves into thinking we are content when, in truth, we are only distracted. The shallow waters may glitter with the illusion of satisfaction, but it is a false light that leads us away from the deeper, more enduring truths of life. The pursuit of meaning is not found in the trivial, nor in the ephemeral pleasures of transient connection. It is found in the depths of the human experience, where vulnerability meets understanding, where time is spent not in idle chatter, but in the shared moments of growth, struggle, and triumph. We are not here to float on the surface, to engage in relationships that skim the edges of our souls. To live like this is to settle for a life half-lived. True fulfillment lies in those moments of real connection, when two people meet not in the safety of their masks, but in the rawness of their being. The kind of fulfillment that speaks to the heart, not because of the small talk, but because of the shared weight of silence, the comfort of knowing that we are seen, understood, and accepted for who we are in our entirety. The shallow connections of the world will never bring you the fulfillment you seek. They will never nourish your soul. They might fill time, but they will not fill you. It is only when we step beyond the superficial, when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and open, that we can discover the kind of fulfillment that does not fade with time, but only grows deeper. The fulfillment of knowing that we have not just exchanged pleasantries, but have truly seen each other. The fulfillment that comes not from ease, but from effort. Effort to understand, to be understood, and to nurture relationships that sustain us through the trials and triumphs of life. True fulfillment comes from the courage to dive deeper, to confront the discomfort of real connection, and to rise from those depths stronger and more alive than we ever were on the surface. To live fully is to seek depths in both ourselves and in our relationships, for only then will we find the peace and joy that the shallow waters can never offer. The art of authenticity in a superficial world. In a world that prizes appearances, we have forgotten the value of authenticity. We dress ourselves in the robes of expectation, speak in the language of conformity, and wear smiles that disguise the weight of our true selves. We have been conditioned to fit into molds, to play roles, to blend in with the crowd, all the while burying the very essence of who we are. The world may praise the polished, the perfect, the outwardly successful, but these are not the things that nurture the soul or build lasting relationship. Authenticity is the quiet rebellion against the superficial. It is the courage to stand in your truth, regardless of the world's judgments, regardless of the discomfort it may bring. To be authentic is not to wear your heart on your sleeve for the world to see, but to live in a way that is consistent with your deepest values, your truest self. It is the refusal to wear a mask, to engage in empty conversations or relationships that do not honor who you truly are. Authenticity is not about perfection. It is about being real, even when it's difficult. It is about showing up as you are, unpolished, unrefined, and yet fully you. In a superficial world, authenticity is rare. It requires strength. It requires the willingness to be vulnerable, to show the world that you are not afraid of being seen for who you truly are. And yet, it is in this very act of vulnerability that we find the most profound connections. When we shed the facades, when we stop pretending to be something we are not, we invite others to do the same. We create spaces where honesty can thrive, where depth can be cultivated, and where true relationships can take root. To be authentic is to stop seeking approval from the outside world and to start living in alignment with your own truth. It is the refusal to settle for anything less than genuine connections. The willingness to be seen for who you are, not the version of you that others expect, but the real you, with all your flaws, your passions, your strengths, and your struggles. Only then can you build relationships that are grounded in truth, that withstand the tests of time, and that bring meaning to your life. Authenticity is the foundation upon which deep connections are built. It is the first step towards cultivating relationships that transcend the superficial, that are rooted in understanding and acceptance. In a world that constantly pressures us to conform, to present our best selves, let us be brave enough to be authentic. For it is in the authenticity of our connections that we find the true richness of life. Understanding the power of deep relationships. In a world that constantly moves at a rapid pace, we have come to value convenience over connection. We have been led to believe that quantity matters more than quality, that having a large circle, a wealth of acquaintances, is the mark of a successful life. But in the pursuit of this endless expansion, we lose sight of what truly sustains us. It is not the number of people we know, nor the fleeting interactions we have with them, but the depth of our relationships that defines the richness of our existence. Deep relationships are the quiet force that propels us through life's trials. They are the anchors in a world that often feels unsteady, the places where we find strength when our own is failing. They are the spaces where we are accepted in our entirety, where our flaws and imperfections are met with understanding, not judgment. In a deep relationship, there is no need to hide, no need to wear a mask. There is only the freedom to be who we are, to share our burdens, our hopes, our dreams, and our fears, knowing that we will be met with empathy, support, and love. The power of deep relationships lies in their ability to nourish the soul. They provide us with a sense of belonging, a feeling that we are not alone in our struggles. They allow us to grow, to evolve, and to face the challenges of life with confidence, because we know we have someone by our side who truly sees us and understands us. In these relationships, we are not merely existing, we are living fully and deeply in the presence of another who shares our journey. True connection is not about proximity, it is about presence. It is about showing up, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. A deep relationship is not bound by time or distance. It transcends the superficial barriers that often divide us. It is built on trust, mutual respect, and the willingness to invest in one another's well-being. The depth of a relationship is not measured by how long we have known someone, but by how much we are willing to share and how open we are to truly understanding one another. To cultivate deep relationships is to recognize their transformative power. These relationships shape us, refine us, and help us discover parts of ourselves we never knew existed. They are the soil in which our most authentic selves can grow, and in return, we offer them the same devotion, the same presence, and the same understanding, knowing that it is through this exchange that we both thrive. The power of deep relationships is immeasurable. They are the heartbeats of our lives, the quiet forces that keep us grounded and give us the strength to face whatever comes our way. In a world that often values the superficial, let us remember that it is the deep connections that truly shape our destiny. It is in the depth of our relationships that we find the meaning we seek. Why we settle for surface-level bonds. We are creatures of comfort, and the superficial is in many ways the path of least resistance. It is far easier to remain in the shallow end than to venture into the unknown depths of genuine connection. We settle for surface-level bonds because they offer us immediate gratification without the discomfort of vulnerability. They allow us to maintain control, to keep our walls up, and to hide the parts of ourselves that we fear may be too much for others to bear. In our fast-paced world, we have learned to prioritize efficiency over depth, speed over sincerity. We engage in quick exchanges, small talk that serves no purpose other than to fill the space, to pass the time. We create relationships that are shallow in the same way we fill our days with distractions, without ever truly engaging with what lies beneath. But in doing so, we rob ourselves of the most profound gift life has to offer, the chance to connect deeply with another soul. The desire for convenience is natural. It is easier to keep things light, to avoid the emotional labor of truly understanding another person. Surface-level bonds demand little from us. They don't ask us to open up, to be raw, or to confront the discomforts of intimacy. They give us a sense of belonging without requiring us to expose our fears, our weaknesses, or our vulnerabilities. It is a false sense of connection, one that feels safe, but ultimately leaves us unfulfilled. But in choosing the easy path, we miss something invaluable. The relationships that truly nourish us, the ones that offer us growth, challenge, and deep companionship, are never easy. They require effort. They demand that we show up as our authentic selves, stripped of pretense. They require us to be vulnerable, to offer not just our time, but our hearts. And it is in this act of openness, of risking rejection or misunderstanding, that we find the deepest forms of connection. Settling for surface-level bonds is a form of self-protection. It is the instinct to shield ourselves from potential hurt, from the fear that we may not be accepted or understood. But in doing so, we deny ourselves the chance to experience the beauty of true companionship. For in the depths of a relationship, we find not just acceptance, but understanding, not just affection, but love that is deep and enduring. We settle because we are afraid of what lies beyond the surface. We are afraid of the vulnerability that deep relationships demand. But in avoiding this vulnerability, we miss the opportunity to experience the richness of life that only comes when we dare to go deeper. To choose the shallow is to deny ourselves the full spectrum of connection that life has to offer. And it is only by stepping beyond the surface, by risking the discomfort of true connection, that we begin to experience the depth and beauty that lies beneath. The danger of empty conversation. We have all been there, caught in the web of small talk, exchanging words that mean little, while the real thoughts and feelings remain locked inside. In these moments we feel a dissonance, a gnawing sense that something is missing. We speak without purpose, nod without truly listening, and smile without the warmth of genuine connection. Empty conversations are the currency of a world that values speed over substance, convenience over depth. But there is a danger in this emptiness, a subtle erosion of our ability to truly communicate, to truly connect. At first glance, empty conversations may seem harmless. They are the polite exchanges that grease the wheels of social interaction, the necessary pleasantries that make life flow more smoothly. But when we allow ourselves to fall into the habit of speaking without meaning, we begin to lose touch with the power of language itself. Words become hollow, a mere string of sounds that pass through our lips without leaving an impact. We stop using language to share, to understand, to build, relying instead on it to fill the silence, to keep things comfortable, to avoid confronting the awkwardness of genuine interaction. Empty conversations may offer a momentary escape from discomfort, but they deny us the chance to truly know one another. They allow us to skate along the surface, avoiding the complexity of human experience. And in doing so, we miss out on the richness that comes from engaging in conversations that matter. Conversations that challenge us, make us think, and open us up to new perspectives. We forfeit the opportunity to connect on a deeper level, to share the unspoken truths, to engage with the essence of who we are.
The danger of empty conversations lies not just in their shallowness, but in their potential to breed a sense of loneliness. We may be surrounded by people, but if our interactions are limited to pleasantries and empty words, we remain isolated in a sea of noise. We may know the names, the faces, and the surface details, but we are strangers to each other in the truest sense. These conversations are not bridges, they are walls, separating us from the deeper connections we so desperately crave.
The key to moving beyond empty conversations is to embrace the discomfort of vulnerability. It is to stop using words as mere fill and start using them to connect, to reveal, to understand. It is to let go of the need for perfection, for smooth exchanges, and to welcome the richness that comes from being real. True conversation is not about pleasing others or filling the silence. It is about opening the doors to our souls, about allowing ourselves to be seen and heard for who we truly are. To break free from empty conversations, we must first recognize the difference between speaking and truly communicating. It is not enough to fill the space with words. We must fill it with meaning. We must listen with intent, respond with thought, and connect with authenticity. It is through these conversations, the ones that carry weight, that we build relationships that are not only real, but transformative. Cultivating meaningful conversations, a path to real connection. Conversations are the threads that weave the fabric of our relationships, yet so many of us treat them as fleeting exchanges without regard for their true potential. We talk, but do we truly connect? We share words, but do we share ourselves? A meaningful conversation is not just an exchange of information, it is an act of connection, an opportunity to peel back the layers and allow the essence of who we are to meet the essence of another. It is in these moments of authentic dialogue that real bonds are formed, where understanding is not simply spoken but felt. To cultivate meaningful conversations requires intention. It requires the willingness to slow down and engage, not just with the words being spoken, but with the person speaking them. It demands that we listen, not just with our ears, but with our hearts. We must learn to hear what is left unsaid, to recognize the emotion behind the words, and to understand the underlying truths that lie beneath the surface. To truly connect, we must be present, fully invested in the exchange, not distracted by our own thoughts or the pull of the outside world. Meaningful conversations begin when we stop treating them as obligations and start seeing them as opportunities. Opportunities to learn, to grow, and to deepen our understanding of the people around us. When we ask questions not just to fill the silence, but to genuinely learn about the other person's experience, their fears, their dreams, and their values, we open the door to a connection that goes far beyond the superficial. These are the conversations that have the power to change us, to transform our relationships, and to give us the insight we need to become more of who we truly are. But meaningful conversations do not happen by accident. They require vulnerability, honesty, and a willingness to show up as our authentic selves. We must be willing to share not just the surface-level details, but the parts of us that are often hidden, our insecurities, our passions, our struggles. It is through this rawness, this willingness to reveal the truth of our experiences, that we invite others to do the same. And in this mutual exchange of openness, we create space for deep connection to flourish. To cultivate meaningful conversations is to be brave enough to be real. It is to let go of the need for perfection or approval and to speak from the heart. It is to listen, not for a pause in the conversation, but to understand, to truly hear the other person's words and the silent meaning behind them. These conversations take time, they require patience, but the rewards are immeasurable. For in them we find not only understanding, but a bond that endures, a connection that transcends the fleeting nature of small talk. Meaningful conversations are the foundation upon which deep relationships are built. They are the vehicle through which we understand each other, challenge each other, and grow together. In a world that often values speed over substance, let us remember that the most powerful conversations are the ones that are slow, intentional, and real. They are the ones that matter, and it is through them that we build the connections that will sustain us, not just in moments of ease, but in times of struggle, growth, and change. The courage to be vulnerable in connection. Vulnerability is the cornerstone of all deep relationships, yet it is also the one thing we fear the most. To be vulnerable is to expose ourselves, to allow our flaws, our insecurities, and our true feelings to be seen by another. In a world that teaches us to be strong, to be self-sufficient, and to protect ourselves at all costs, vulnerability feels like a weakness, and so we keep our walls up, we guard our hearts, and we settle for shallow connections, all in the name of self-preservation. But here lies the paradox. It is only through vulnerability that we can experience the depth of true connection. It is only when we dare to expose the rawness of who we are that we invite others to do the same. Vulnerability is not a weakness, it is the truest form of strength. It takes courage to stand before another and say, "This is who I am, with all my imperfections, my fears, and my struggles." It takes strength to trust that, in revealing ourselves, we will be met with understanding, compassion, and acceptance. And it is through this trust, this act of courage, that we form the most profound and lasting bonds. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we give others permission to do the same. We break down the walls of pretension and allow for real, unfiltered connection. In this space of shared vulnerability, we find empathy, compassion, and the understanding that we are not alone in our experiences. We realize that, despite our differences, we are all human, with the same fears, the same desires, and the same longing for connection. Vulnerability invites us to see each other not as strangers, but as fellow travelers on the same journey, each of us carrying our own burdens and triumphs, and yet all of us worthy of love and acceptance.
The courage to be vulnerable in connection requires us to overcome the fear of rejection, the fear of being misunderstood, and the fear of being judged. It requires us to relinquish the need for perfection, to stop hiding behind the masks of who we think we should be, and to simply show up as ourselves. It means letting go of the need for control and embracing the unknowns of human interaction. For in the unknowns lies the possibility for true intimacy, the kind of intimacy that transcends superficiality and touches the very core of who we are. In every relationship, there are moments that call for vulnerability, whether it is sharing a fear, expressing a desire, or admitting a mistake. These moments are the ones that shape the depth of our connections. They are the moments when we show our true selves and invite others to do the same. And it is in these moments that we find the courage to be truly known and to know others in return.
To be vulnerable is to trust that, even in our fragility, we are deserving of love, connection, and understanding. It is to risk being seen, not as the flawless, perfect version of ourselves, but as the real, imperfect, and beautiful human being that we are. And it is in this courage to be vulnerable that we create the relationships that are truly worth having, the ones that fill us, challenge us, and help us grow. Vulnerability is not a weakness. It is the gateway to the depth and beauty of human connection. The importance of empathy in cultivating real bonds. Empathy is the bridge between isolation and connection, the force that transforms ordinary interactions into meaningful relationships. To empathize is not merely to understand another's feelings, but to feel them, to allow their emotions to become your own, and to connect with their experience on a deep, human level. In a world often defined by self-interest and personal gain, empathy is a rare and invaluable gift, yet it is the key to creating relationships that are rooted in authenticity and understanding. Empathy is not automatic. It is a choice. It is an intentional act of opening ourselves up to the emotions of others, of putting aside our own judgments, expectations, and distractions in order to truly listen and understand. In a time when many are consumed by their own struggles, it can be easy to turn inward and forget the importance of reaching out to others. But it is in these moments that we must remind ourselves that true connection is only possible when we are willing to step into someone else's world and see things through their eyes. When we empathize, we cease to be mere spectators of another's life. We become participants in it. We allow ourselves to be touched by their joys, their sorrows, and their challenges. And in doing so, we create space for them to feel heard, valued, and seen. This is the essence of deep connection, the mutual understanding that transcends words, the shared feeling that binds two souls together. Empathy opens us up to the full spectrum of human experience, allowing us to connect not just on the surface, but in a way that is raw, real, and profoundly intimate. True empathy is not about fixing or solving someone else's problems. It is not about offering advice or trying to make everything better. It is about being present with them in their experience, about sitting with them in their pain or their joy, and simply acknowledging that what they are going through matters. In this act of validation, we create a space where the other person can breathe, can feel heard, and can know that they are not alone. It is a simple yet powerful act that requires nothing more than our presence, our attention, and our willingness to connect. To empathize is to strip away our own ego, to let go of the need to be right, to be the one with the answer, and to simply be with another person as they are. It is about recognizing that everyone is fighting their own battles, facing their own fears, and carrying their own burdens. And when we approach each interaction with this awareness, we cultivate an environment of understanding, compassion, and respect. Empathy invites us to acknowledge our shared humanity, to recognize that, at our core, we are all in this together.
Empathy also has the power to heal. In a world that often feels disconnected and divided, empathy is the balm that soothes wounds, both personal and collective. It creates a sense of belonging, a feeling that we are not alone in our struggles or our joys. When we allow ourselves to deeply connect with others through empathy, we become part of something larger than ourselves. We build a community of mutual care, understanding, and support, where each person feels valued and important.
In the cultivation of real bonds, empathy is essential. It is the foundation upon which trust is built, the glue that holds relationships together through life's trials. And yet, it is often the most overlooked. We must learn to slow down, to listen not just with our ears, but with our hearts, to truly be present for those we care about. For it is through empathy that we experience the richness of connection, the kind that sustains us, nurtures us, and makes life truly meaningful. The role of patience in nurturing deep relationships. Patience is a virtue that we often overlook in our fast-paced world, yet it is one of the most crucial ingredients in cultivating deep, lasting relationships. In an age where instant gratification has become the norm, we are taught to expect quick results, to demand speed, and to move on when things don't happen on our terms. But deep relationships are not built overnight. They require time, understanding, and, most importantly, patience.
In relationships, patience is not about waiting in silence or merely tolerating another person. It is about allowing the connection to evolve naturally, without rushing, without forcing it into a mold of our own desires. It means giving space for the other person to grow, to open up, and to share at their own pace. It means understanding that trust and vulnerability are earned over time, and that the depth of a relationship cannot be rushed. True bonds take time to nurture, like a tree growing from a seed. They must be watered with consistent care and attention, and given time to take root and flourish.
In the pursuit of deep connections, patience helps us let go of unrealistic expectations. We must learn to embrace the process, knowing that every moment of connection, no matter how small, is part of the larger journey. It is easy to become frustrated when things don't progress as quickly as we'd like, when the bond doesn't form immediately, or when the other person is not yet ready to be vulnerable. But it is in these moments of waiting, of allowing things to unfold naturally, that we create the space for true intimacy to grow. Relationships are not forced. They grow organically when we let go of our desire for control and allow them to evolve at their own pace. Patience also teaches us to appreciate the imperfections of others. We often enter relationships with expectations of how others should behave, how they should act, or how they should make us feel. But no one is perfect, and it is through patience that we learn to accept and love others as they are, flaws and all. Patience allows us to see the beauty in the struggle, to understand that growth takes time and that mistakes are part of the process. It is through this lens that we can develop compassion, understanding, and a deeper appreciation for the people in our lives. Furthermore, patience enables us to create a sense of security and trust within our relationships. When we are patient with others, we demonstrate that we are willing to invest the time and energy needed to build something meaningful. It sends a message that we are committed to the relationship, that we are not interested in rushing through it, but rather in nurturing it for the long term. This sense of security fosters openness and vulnerability, as people feel safe enough to be themselves without fear of judgment or abandonment. The practice of patience also extends to our own growth within relationships. We often seek instant progress, but personal and relational growth takes time. We must be patient with ourselves as we learn to communicate more effectively, to listen more deeply, and to open our hearts more fully. Relationships are not static. They require ongoing effort, reflection, and patience as we navigate the complexities of human connection.
In the end, it is through patience that we give the best gift we can to our relationships: time. Time to understand, time to grow, and time to create something that is both enduring and meaningful. Patience teaches us to value the process over the outcome, to appreciate each step along the way, and to trust that deep, lasting connections are worth every moment of waiting. In a world that demands speed, patience is the quiet force that allows us to build relationships that stand the test of time. The power of consistency in building lasting connections. Consistency is the quiet strength that holds relationships together, like the steady beat of a heart that ensures life continues uninterrupted. In a world that often values fleeting moments of excitement, it is easy to overlook the immense power of showing up day after day for the people who matter most. Yet, it is through consistency that we prove our commitment to others, that we nurture trust, and that we create relationships that endure the tests of time and circumstance. True connection is not built on grand gestures or fleeting displays of affection. It is built on the small, everyday actions that demonstrate care, reliability, and presence. Consistency is the foundation upon which trust is built, for it is through our actions, repeated over time, that others come to know who we are and what we stand for. When we are consistent in our words and actions, we create a sense of security for those we care about. They come to know that we will be there, not just in the moments of joy or celebration, but in the quieter, more difficult moments as well. Consistency does not require perfection, nor does it demand that we always have the right words to say or the perfect response to offer. It simply requires us to show up, to be present, and to engage in the relationship with sincerity and care. Whether it's a text message to check in, a kind word when needed, or the quiet presence that reassures someone in their time of need, consistency is about creating a rhythm of connection that builds over time. These small acts of care may seem insignificant on their own, but when woven together, they form the tapestry of a relationship that is rich in trust and understanding. Through consistency, we learn that relationships are not dependent on the highs and lows, the grand moments, or the dramatic turns of life. They are dependent on the quiet moments of showing up, on the steady effort to keep the connection alive, even when it feels like nothing is happening. This is where the true strength of a relationship lies, in its ability to endure the passage of time and to grow in the mundane moments of daily life. When we consistently show up for others, we demonstrate that they matter to us, that we are invested in their well-being, and that we will stand by them through whatever life may bring. Consistency also builds the habit of understanding. It allows us to get to know the people we care about on a deeper level as we become attuned to their needs, their desires, and their unique ways of being. Through regular interaction, we learn the subtle nuances of their personality, their moods, and their preferences. And it is in this knowing, this deep understanding of another person, that we create the space for connection to flourish. However, consistency also requires patience. It requires the willingness to keep showing up, even when the results aren't immediately visible. There will be times when it feels as though our efforts go unnoticed, when the connection seems stagnant, or when we face challenges that threaten to unravel the bond we've built. But it is in these moments that consistency proves its true power. By continuing to show up, by remaining steadfast in our commitment to the relationship, we weather the storms together and emerge stronger for having done so. The power of consistency in relationships is simple yet profound. It is the steady commitment to showing up day in and day out with care, attention, and reliability. It is in these quiet, consistent actions that we build the foundation for deep, lasting connections that are not swayed by time, circumstance, or hardship. Relationships may begin with passion or excitement, but it is consistency that keeps them strong, that ensures they grow, and that helps them endure through all seasons of life. The strength of forgiveness in deepening connections. Forgiveness is not just a gift we offer to others, it is a gift we offer ourselves. It is a conscious choice, an act of strength, and one of the most transformative forces in relationships. In a world where grudges, resentment, and bitterness often take root, forgiveness offers a way out of the shadows and into the light of connection. It clears the path for healing, growth, and understanding, allowing us to move beyond our hurts and to build relationships that are truly deep and enduring. At its core, forgiveness is not about forgetting or excusing the wrongs that have been done. It is about releasing the hold that past hurts have over us, about choosing not to carry the weight of anger, resentment, or regret into the future. When we forgive, we let go of the need for vengeance or retribution and instead make space for empathy, compassion, and understanding. It is in this release that we find freedom, not just for ourselves, but for the relationship as a whole. Holding on to past pain keeps us bound to the past, preventing us from fully engaging in the present. Forgiveness allows us to break those chains, to move forward with an open heart, and to create the conditions for new growth. Forgiveness is also an act of humility. It requires us to acknowledge our own imperfections, our own mistakes, and our own flaws. To forgive is to recognize that we too have fallen short and that we too have needed forgiveness at times. In forgiving others, we extend the same grace that we would hope to receive, and in doing so, we affirm the humanity of both ourselves and the other person. We come to understand that no one is perfect, that everyone has their struggles, and that in a world marked by imperfection, forgiveness is the balm that heals wounds and restores balance. Yet forgiveness is not always easy. It requires courage to confront the pain, to sit with the hurt, and to choose to let go of the need to be right or justified. It requires us to move beyond the ego, to see the other person not as an adversary, but as a fellow human being capable of making mistakes just as we are. And it is in this shift of perspective that we open the door to true reconciliation. By forgiving, we make room for the possibility of deeper connection, for the restoration of trust, and for the healing of old wounds. Forgiveness also teaches us the value of compassion. It invites us to approach the other person not with judgment or blame, but with empathy and understanding. We begin to ask ourselves, what led this person to act in this way? What pain might they be carrying? What struggles might they be facing? In answering these questions, we shift from a place of hurt to a place of understanding. And it is in this understanding that we find the strength to forgive. Not because the other person necessarily deserves it, but because we choose to release the hold that anger and resentment have over us. In relationships, there will inevitably be moments of conflict, disagreement, and even betrayal. No connection is immune to pain, to misunderstandings, or to the scars that life leaves behind. But it is through forgiveness that we find the strength to heal, to rebuild, and to grow stronger together. It is in forgiveness that we create the space for vulnerability, for honesty, and for the kind of trust that forms the bedrock of deep relationships. Without forgiveness, relationships remain fractured, incomplete, and stagnant, but with it, they are transformed into something deeper, something stronger, and something more resilient. Forgiveness is not just an act of letting go, it is an act of choosing love over hate, peace over turmoil, and understanding over judgment. It is the conscious decision to see the other person not as a source of pain, but as someone worthy of compassion, worthy of grace, and worthy of a second chance. In forgiving, we free ourselves from the shackles of resentment and open our hearts to the possibility of true, lasting connection. Forgiveness, in its purest form, is the foundation upon which relationships are made whole again.